in 1978, you landed in Beijing. So tell me, what was your thought process back then?
That I started to study in 1975, so that's exactly 15 years ago, when China was still closed completely. Chairman Mao was still alive, just at
Focusing on promoting inbound tourism from 1986 till 89, and then you started focusing on promotion of outbound tourism.
there were no computers, almost no telephone lines. It was so very difficult to organize anything, and there were, of course, not many.
You founded COTRI in 2004. So for those of professionals who do not know what COTRI is, explain them.
Many people are still thinking, oh, what a crazy idea, China as a source market. Sharing my lift with a robot. So because the room service, if you order some food or some drinks.
Did you like that experience? Talking to robots?
I felt a bit strange about it. So that because this robot,
you have rightly said it, that there is a transition, and Chinese tourists are trying to experience destinations in a more meaningful way.
Meaningful tourism means, yes, it's meaningful for the travelers, but also for the global development of tourism, and that of course it's also for the Chinese market important that you have something the visitors get out of it, but the industry.
Tell me, Doctor, from where are you joining us?
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, welcome for having me on your podcast. I'm very happy to join you from Kathmandu in Nepal. So I'm a German, but after I retired from my university posts, I have been moving to Nepal, and I'm now living here in Kathmandu.
So good to have you. Really looking forward to this insightful discussion with you. I was reading about your profile, and I was amazed to see how clear you were from the very beginning. Like, you did your MA in sinology. And for people who do not know what sinology is, let me tell them it's a study, it's a academic study in Chinese language. On top of it, you did some language courses in Cantonese and Mandarin back then. And then it's a time when this American dream kind of idea was cultivated. But you, from the very beginning, were very clear, like preparing yourself for another market, like to China. You were well skilled with Chinese language, and then you had a degree in sinology, and then in 1978 you landed in Beijing. So tell me, what was your thought process back then? Instead of following that kind of path, you chose a very different path. From Germany, you traveled to China. So what was the thought behind it?
Yeah, so actually, you're right. Not many people had this crazy idea to study about China. That was a very exotic thing, and I started to study in 1975, so that's exactly 15 years ago, when China was still closed completely. Chairman Mao was still alive, just at the end of his life, and well, it was basically curiosity. Of course, I've been asked many times why did you do that, and it was simply the biggest enigma in the world. You could hear all different kind of stories about what's happening in China. So I just wanted to see, and so actually in '77 I was going to Taiwan for half a year to study Chinese, and on my way to Taiwan, my airplane was going down in Karachi for refueling. That was my first connection with Pakistan, and the next year, in 1978, I was actually traveling with the Trans-Siberian Railway all the way from Berlin to Moscow, and then from Moscow 1 week to Beijing. And I spent 3 weeks with a student group in China. And on the
Yeah.
way back, I was flying to Delhi, and then I went overland back to Europe. So again, passing through Pakistan, staying a few days in Pakistan, way back in 1978.
Yeah.
Taking a train through Baluchistan, arriving in Zahedin in southeastern Iran. So it was very interesting trip at that time. And of course, ever since I've been working with the Chinese market, which in
Yes,
the
you actually
1990s
founded.
became very important.
Yes, you actually founded your company. You became tour operator, focusing on promoting inbound tourism from 1986 till 89, and then you started focusing on promotion of outbound tourism. So,
Yes,
how was
yes.
your
So
experience? So, how was your experience as a tour operator?
rather the first few years, yes, as you said, I was bringing mostly German tourists to China, which was
Okay.
a kind of adventure because at that time there were no computers, almost no telephone lines. It was so very difficult to organize anything, and there were, of course, not many foreigners in China. In some places, we were the first foreigners I had ever seen. Uh, but then in 89, a lot of things happening. So in China, you had the students' protests and then the military taking over and the Tiananmen in June 89. And a few months later, in my hometown, Berlin, the wall came down. So Germany was reunited. The Cold War was ended. So a lot of things were changing. And then from 91, then actually, yes, for almost 10 years, I had a company with an office in Beijing and an office in Berlin, and we were starting to bring Chinese business delegations to Germany and mostly working for German companies like Siemens Company, Mercedes-Benz, and other companies, mostly in the transportation sector. And so that was again very interesting because our Chinese customers, for them, it was also the first time in their life they were leaving China. Many were convinced this is the only time in their life they will have the opportunity to go out of the country. So it was all very new for them. And so, but during the 1990s, of course, uh, China started seriously the reform and opening policy and became much more important and successful economically. So at the end of the 1990s, leisure tourism started from China, and it was really something where then bigger companies took over, and then I decided, okay, I've done this long enough, and I finished my PhD, and I became a tourism professor, and I started COTRI
Yes,
in
you founded
2012.
COTRI in 2004. So, for those
Yes.
of professionals who do not know what COTRI is, explain them what COTRI is. COTRI is China Institute, China Outbound Tourism Research Institute. So, what it is
So
doing?
again, in 2004, many people are still thinking, oh, what a crazy idea. China as a source market. Many people are saying, oh, yes, of course, we go to China to see the Great Wall, but the Chinese coming to us, are you sure? But by 2012, China already was the number one tourism source market in the world. And so we
Yes.
have been, since more than 20 years, we have been helping destinations, companies all over the world in getting ready for the Chinese visitors, in helping them with their product adaptation towards what Chinese customers want. Of course, also with the marketing. So we organize many conferences, many trainings, many fairs. And so that is something which has been going on for more than 20 years. And of course, now it is still China again is the biggest outbound tourist source market. In this year, 2025, we will probably reach the same level of number of trips and also of payment as we had in 2019 before the pandemic. So again, China is the biggest, by far the biggest tourist source market in the world, and therefore now, of
Absolutely.
course,
As,
many
as you
people, many people are more interested in this topic much more than they were
Yes,
like
even
2012.
the name of our podcast is Understanding Chinese Travelers, and destinations can't ignore it. And Kotri has been instrumental in providing qualitative and quantitative analysis and helping destinations out there who want to make a share out of this huge market. So, as you mentioned, that 2012. back then, China achieved this status so as a biggest international tourism source market, and then COTRI became more market analytic and market driven, and was producing really good reports. Like over the years, if I see it on your website, COTRI has been analyzing Chinese outbound tourism, covering a wide range of regions from the USA to Central and Eastern Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Arctic, and to emerging markets as well, including Africa recently. And then the thematic focus has also been changing, from food tourism to luxury travel to cruise shipping and senior travel as well. So I want to understand your perspective, that how have Chinese travelers' preferences evolved over the past few years?
Yeah, of course, this is exactly the question I've been answering for 40 years or more. And well, the simple answer is it has become more and more a fragmented market. So, of course, it is big. We're talking about 150 million trips. So, it used to be that when the Chinese were traveling for the first time, and also maybe up to 2015 or so even, that it was very much about sightseeing, so taking off the main attractions and the main tourist destinations, and it was a lot about shopping and a lot about bragging, so telling people, hey, look, this is a photo of me in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, or in front of the Empire State Building in New York, or the Sydney Opera, this kind of places. But already before the pandemic, and certainly now after the pandemic, this has been changing now. And as people have more travel experience, we now have young people, young in China, who already grew up in an affluent family, who have been traveling since they were children already internationally. So, and now we can see that what the Chinese outbound tourists want, the answer is very simple. There is not the Chinese outbound tourist, like there is not the European or the American tourist. So we have a big diversity. And I think one of the important things to understand is that you have a lot of niche markets. And in many cases, the tourist industry is always afraid of niche markets and, oh, too much effort for too little money. But in China, as this is 1.4 billion people, and out of which we have maybe 150 million, so let's say 10% of the people are able to pay for international travel. So you have all kind of interest, and even a niche market will be 500,000 or a million people. So therefore, it is now different. That now it is not anymore package tours for mass market. So Chinese don't like anymore to travel in big groups with a tour guide in front. They rather want to travel in small groups and self or semi self organized.
Okay.
One very important hurdle we had before was language, so that many young people speak some English, but older people, older meaning 40 plus, are still only speaking Chinese. But now you have all these nice apps, translation apps in your smartphone, where you can speak in Chinese and it speaks Urdu or English or whatever you want. And so therefore, the language barrier is now much less important. So that also means more Chinese travelers are daring to travel by themselves, self-organized. So the traditional idea, Chinese tourists are 45 people in a coach bus, jumping out of the bus, taking a photo, eating Chinese food, going to shops, and then go back or next day to the next city. This is still existing, of course, but this is now the minority. And for the majority of people, it's rather that they say, okay, I have a special hobby, I have a special interest, and I want to go to places which are not so well frequented by other travelers. And for many Chinese tourists, it's simply they have been to all the important places already, so they have ticked off the places you have to go to. And so many are now saying, okay, now let's go somewhere else. Let's find something new. And also, let's be closer to the local culture. So
Mm.
before, people have just been taking a photo, but now many Chinese tourists, the majority, I would think by now, they say, okay, I want to have a transformational experience. I want to learn something. So I want not just to eat local food, but also I want even learn maybe how to cook it, or I want to learn how to do some local music, learn a local dance. Not perfectly, of course, still on a tourist level, but so uh, having encounters with the local population, that has become much more important. And also, another point is that it used to be cities, so that Chinese tourists would go to the main cities where the main attractions were. And with the pandemic, uh, also in China, like in many other countries, nature experience has become much more important. So people have learned through the pandemic how much we are depending on our
Yeah.
environment. Climate change is showing us too. But so nature, going not just to the big cities, but going also into nature is also something which in the last years has become much more important.
If we talk about the China as a destination itself, it has a lot of offerings to make to Chinese travelers domestically. China is huge, and it itself offers so many offerings in the culture, in the food, or any niche segment you pick up. So I don't know if Chinese travelers are preferring to travel domestically or internationally, but itself China internally has a lot of domestic tourism in place ongoing.
Yes, so of course there are approximately 6 billion domestic trips every year in China. So that is a
That's
huge
huge.
number. And
Yeah.
just now, as we are speaking, we have the Golden Week in China, the October Golden Week, which
Okay.
is because of the National Day, the foundation of the People's Republic of China was on the October 1st, 1949. So therefore, the first week of October is a week where the whole country is on holidays and the whole country is traveling. So there are hundreds of millions of people traveling, either back home, but many people live and work in the cities, but originally come from the countryside. They go back home for family meetings, but also other people are going there for traveling, for leisure travel. So yes, there is of course a huge domestic market, and as you said, in China, in the northeast, you have climate like in Siberia, and if you go to the south to Hainan Island, that is like Hawaii. So you have all different kinds of climates, all different kinds of nature landscapes. But of course, it is still prestigious to go abroad. So Chinese people are still curious to see the rest of the world. They want to see with their own eyes. In many cases, as I said, they want to follow some hobby, and if they say, I don't know, they are like bird watching, then they want to go to places where there are some local birds you can't find in China, or they want to see local culture, local architecture, and so on. But also, it is a question of prestige. So if you are rich enough to travel, you normally want to travel internationally. And of course,
But
it's not only leisure travel. Lots of people travel for business, for education. We have so many Chinese students abroad. Some people even travel for religious reasons
yes.
and for health reasons. So it's also health become more and more important. So therefore, clearly we have, of course, lots of domestic tourists. But if you can afford it, but basically a question of how much money you have, if you can afford it, then you will travel internationally, and this is something we could see. There was some debate during pandemic, or will the Chinese come back to the international market? And also, it took a bit longer than expected. It was not like an explosion after China opened up again 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But by now, we are back to the level we were before the pandemic. And Sorry, it will not grow that
But
fast. And
I remember as you put up this reopening of China after COVID ended. So those were good times, and these were the headlines because Chinese are high spenders as well. Like destinations were actually ready to welcome Chinese travelers. They did not mention like newspaper that you read, CNN travel, BBC travel. These are the news. These are the big news houses who were putting up the headlines. Now Chinese travelers are going to visit these destinations, and we are expecting travel receipts go in search or so this is the trend that has been observed. So China indeed is a big market, and there is a lot of potential that has been translated into economic impact by these Chinese travelers.
yes, and of course, the point is that what we can see now is that in China, the economy has slowed down, like everywhere in the world. We
Oh,
have difficult times.
yeah.
Global political relations are very tense for reasons we don't have to discuss here. And so therefore, what we can see is that the Chinese are more careful with their money,
Okay.
not so before the pandemic, most rich Chinese people were earning good money, and they were all convinced, oh, next year I will earn
Mm.
even more, so I can spend all the money. There will be more coming. I don't need to save any money. This has changed a lot. So I can tell you, I've been 5 times this year in China already in the last 9 months or so,
Okay.
and the mood has very much changed. People are much more anxious and not so sure about the future, and therefore they're more careful with their money. So what we
Mm.
can see now that the biggest increases in arrivals from China are in the region. So Japan, South Korea, Malaysia,
Mm.
these kind of places are getting more and more visitors, and so which also for Pakistan, for instance, is a
Mm.
positive news. That
Yes.
more Chinese people are traveling within the region. Also, well, we have more and more older people, so 60 plus people who might also not want to sit 10 or 12 hours in an airplane. So if we
Mm.
have, you can reach a destination within 4 or 5 hours, that is also an argument in favor of the destination. So we could see that in Europe, the growth is not as much as expected. So if I look at my home country, Germany or Switzerland or France, of course, they have Chinese tourists, but it's not yet to the level they were before the pandemic.
Mm.
And for obvious political reasons, the number of Chinese tourists going to USA has dropped a lot. The number of Chinese students going to USA has dropped a lot.
Mm.
So therefore, it is basically Asia which is seeing big increases and so, but let's say simplified, of course, people have more money are going more to Japan than before, or if they want to do shopping, then Japan is now the number one destination. And
Mm.
if they want to do something interesting, adventure, or leisure or culture tourism, they go to, as I said, to some new places where they have
Mm.
not been before, and where maybe not so many Chinese tourists are going. So that is a clear development that it is not evenly distributed. But you also have Africa as a coming and increasing destination, so that now the Chinese have more or less developed the new idea to go to Africa.
Mm.
Uh, South America, that is the other side of the world. If you look on a globe, it is really far away from China, so they don't get much visitors. So Asia is clearly 85% of all the international trips, and maybe leisure trips, even 90% of leisure trips are going to a destination inside Asia. Again, politics are playing a big role in the Chinese outbound tourism, which means the number of Chinese tourists going to Russia has
Mm.
increased a lot
Okay.
because they feel that well, it's visa free now, and they feel more welcome there.
Okay.
And this is also another point, I think, again, which is in favor of Pakistan, that political relations are between Pakistan and China are very good. And for
Yeah.
Chinese people, this is something important. I think if you talk to German tourists, they don't care. They might not even aware of what is the political level if they go to some place. But for Chinese people, that is much more important to say, okay, are these our friends? Are they
Yeah.
happy to see Chinese people coming?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is something which is in favor. And you can see the one exception of the successful Asian destinations is Thailand. So Thailand used to be very big for Chinese tourists, but now their numbers have dropped by like 20% or so because there were some incidents of anti-Chinese behavior, which was also discussed a lot in Chinese social media. And so
Mm-hmm.
now a lot of Chinese people are saying, oh, the Thai people, they don't like us, so then, well, we don't go there. So
Oh,
that is
okay.
something which is very important. And again, this is something where you can play your cards well and say, well, look, we have a long tradition of friendship between our people, and that's another reason to come to our place.
If I talk
So,
about Pakistan, what Pakistan has to offer to Chinese travelers is religious tourism. You see, in the Gandhara artifacts and the stupas and religious sites for Buddhist travelers is available in Pakistan. From that lens, Pakistan is very important for Chinese travelers. Religiously, they
yeah.
are Buddhists, right? Pakistan offers that product for religious travelers of China.
Yes, yes, and so it is. Uh, last year I had the opportunity to visit the northern part of Pakistan. So going to a conference on mountain tourism on
Okay.
about 2,000 meters height with a local university, and so that was the first time I was in this part of Pakistan, and I was very impressed by it. And this is certainly an area, especially in the summer, where it is still nice and cool up there. So maybe 20 degrees, but not more than that. So that is something certainly attractive for Chinese tourists. But then the cities with all the culture, all the architecture you have, uh, that is something which is interesting for Chinese people. And also, of course, what we can see, especially maybe if we talk about the older Chinese travelers, uh, obviously Pakistan is very different from China, but not too different. So, for instance,
Okay.
for the food, Pakistani food, well, you eat obviously a lot of rice and other things which are more familiar than a German sausage or something like that. So therefore, and I think it is the right level of being having, of course, common history. So in China now, the Silk Road has been talked a lot about, and so having common traits in the history and in the culture, but of course being different. So that this is the right level of that it is more easy to understand than, for instance, Africa, where it is everything completely different. Where this is rather for young or middle-aged travelers than for senior travelers. So therefore, I think yes, you have, of course, in Pakistan. I know that you have also diversity in landscapes. Like
Yes.
not only you have mountains, you have deserts, you have green areas. You have a high diversity of flora and fauna
Hmm.
and culture, of course. So I think there's a lot for Chinese tourists to see, and so it is. Uh, I looked at the numbers, and so yeah, already you have a lot of Chinese travelers, but giving the total market, I'm sure there is room for improvement. There could be even more. One question is, of course, always uh, accessibility. So how many direct air connections do you have, and But that is, of course, also demand driven. If more people want to travel, then more
Yes.
airlines will fly, and then more flights per week will be offered. So, but I think, yeah, so as I said, so Pakistan is, from China, you're flying maybe 5 hours or maximum 6 hours.
Yeah.
You're there, so this is half a day trip. So it's not so taking up so much time. Because, well, one thing to say about Chinese tourists, most of them, so if they're not retired already, have money, but they don't have time. So they are working a lot, and they may have 10 days a year where they can go on a leisure trip. So they want to see a lot of things, and they want to do a lot of things, and they don't want to waste time. They don't want to wait for anything. So if you work with Chinese tourists, you have to be sure to make have everything happening on time. So if you say the bus is leaving from the hotel at 8 o'clock in the morning, the bus should be really there 10 minutes
Mhm.
before 8. And well, I have to say, now I'm based in Nepal, and Nepal is also a wonderful country. But here, time is rather more flexible. So if you say 8 o'clock, that might be 15 or 20 minutes past 8. And we had a Chinese delegation here. We helped to organize some fam trip for Chinese tour operators. And what they were saying was, oh, it's a wonderful country, very nice, very interesting, but uh, some of the domestic flights were delayed, and so everything was not so
Yes.
on time. And that's a problem because our customers say, okay, I have 10 days and I have a long list of things I want to see and want to do. So let's don't waste time on waiting for something. So that is something which is important to be aware of that before. That's one of the basic things. And by talking about basic things, now in China, nobody is using cash anymore, so it's really exotic. If you
Very
look
advanced.
at,
China is very advanced. I was watching the video by a influencer, a Pakistani influencer. His niche is on the niche of adventure tourism. But for the very first time, I got the opportunity to see China up close, and I was really impressed to see that China as a destination. Even their villages are having Wi-Fi connection. There are digital
yeah,
pods to charge your phones, and China has progressed a lot as a country in all these areas. Like if you talk about technology, it's a leader in technology. If you talk about tourism itself as a destination, it has a lot to offer. So China is becoming a bucket list destination for other travelers as well.
yes,
Yeah.
of course, yes. No, no, and certainly, I mean, this is something which uh, in China, and by Chinese operators will not expect this to find this all over the world, but in China, but I can give you just one simple example. Some months ago, I was in Beijing and I was having lunch with a local friend there, and we were going to a small restaurant, nothing fancy, just some noodle soup place, but still, he didn't talk to the waiter one word. So we would enter, he would scan the QR code on the table for the menu,
Yes.
then he would
Yes.
order with his smartphone, he would pay with Alipay
Beautiful.
with his smartphone. So, and there was one lady, all she was doing was carrying the tray from the kitchen to our table and saying, okay, here is your food. And that was it. And this was not a fancy restaurant, nothing special. And I asked my friend, well, you don't talk to this lady? She said, no, what for? So you do this online, then there can be no mistake. So you don't, but Beijing is a capital. There are coming people from other provinces who might not speak perfect Mandarin, standard Chinese. So you can do this, and you pay already. So everything is done. And this is certainly last week I was in Guilin at a conference in the south of China, and I was sharing my lift with a robot. So because
Oh,
the room service, if you order some food or some drinks,
did
it's
you
a
like
hotel
that
room.
experience? Talking to
It's
robots?
I felt strange. I felt a bit strange about it. So that because this robot, so you order some food with your smartphone and you get a pin code, and then the robot will have in his head something where you can open and you put the stuff inside, and so robot can manipulate the lift. So the robot will go
Yeah.
up to your room. Then the robot sends you a message. Hi, I'm standing in front of your room, and you open the room
Oh.
and your door, and you put the pin code in the robot, and then you can open it and you can take out the stuff.
Right.
And yeah, it is a weird experience, but in China, this is now
Becoming normal.
totally normal. Like, again,
Hmm.
that was nobody in China takes any note of this anymore. That's a normal thing to do. And in bigger restaurants, you have will have a robot where you can put the trays so that the waiter will walk next to the robot who can carry 500 trays in one go, and they will just
Okay.
put the stuff on the table. And so and of course, I went from Guangzhou to Guilin, which is like 800 kilometers, and it took
Okay.
2.5 hours by a high-speed train. And the
Hmm.
high-speed train is always on time. You can only enter the railway station with a ticket, so everybody has a seat. Nobody is standing in the train. Otherwise, you can't even enter the railway station. You don't have already a ticket with a seat reservation. And so everything is, these kind of things are, of course, very well advanced. Almost all the cars now are electrical cars. All the
Yes.
bikes are e-bikes.
Hmm.
So again, which is you have to get used to that. If you walk somewhere, you don't hear the traffic anymore. So you don't hear the e-bikes coming or the cars coming because they're silent. They don't. The motors don't make any noise. Um,
Now,
but
now,
and
now considering,
Chinese entrepreneurs are aware of the fact that this is not everywhere in the world, and they're very proud of it, of course, and
yeah,
they're very happy
yeah, this
to
brings me
share.
to my another question. Like, see, China itself is very advanced. So, in your view, what do you think? Which emerging destinations or travel trends are set to capture the next wave of Chinese outbound travelers? Because you see, they are so much used to technology themselves. So, how do you see? And which are those destinations that you see Chinese outbound travelers would go?
Well, I think the good news is that you have to have some basics right. Like, for instance, I mentioned Alipay. So Chinese want to have a good Wi-Fi connection everywhere because they want to put their photo on the Chinese equivalent of Instagram and so on. So you need good Wi-Fi, and you need be able to let them pay with mobile payment, with Alipay or WeChat Pay. Uh, but if you have these basics right, then you don't need maybe what you needed like 10 years ago, that there is a lot of luxury shops. You have a Gucci shop or a Hermes boutique or whatever,
Hmm.
and that you have to be the most famous place in the world. The emerging markets are rather those places where you can offer authentic experience. So all the rich people in China live in big cities. So they all come from cities with 10, 15, 20 million inhabitants. So now it is, there many people are very interested to live in villages with local people, in rural destinations, and as I said, learning something about local culture by encountering local people and learning from them. So therefore, there are much bigger chances before than we had before if you are a special place and you can offer something special and you tell the story to the Chinese customers in a good way. So you don't need the Eiffel Tower anymore to get Chinese tourists to your place. But of course, which also means you have to analyze as a destination what do we have to offer for which segments of the market. So it is not the Chinese tourist; it's rather which segments. Also geographically, very very simple. In the north, in the winter, it's very cold. You have the months of snow. In the south, it's never below 50 degrees. So So the people in the north are happy to come for sunshine. The people in the south are rather happy to go for cool temperatures, especially in the summer. So that means also, again, very simply, are you going to the GITF, the Guangzhou International Travel Fair in Guangzhou, or are you going to ITB China in Shanghai? Depends on which market you want to target, because China is as big as Europe. So think of
Yeah.
China as a continent, not as a country.
Mm.
So therefore, it is geography is playing a role, but for even more importantly, what do people want? And if you say, okay, we can have a lot of special offers for nature lovers. We can have a lot of special offers for people interested in food. You know, for Chinese people, food is a very important topic.
Mm.
And if you say, okay, you can have some cooking classes. You can learn about local food. That will be very interesting. Uh, the good news is also, I think, for a place like Pakistan, that for Chinese people, alcohol is not so important. So actually, since this year, the Chinese government has made a decree that, and I've been on a couple of official banquets. We have wonderful food, but no alcohol. We only have fruit juice. So because the government has said since the beginning of this year, uh, we don't serve any beer or wine or hard liquors anymore if this is the government official dinner.
Oh,
So therefore, if we have some French tourists, they will be very unhappy that they can't have a glass of wine
so
at
now
their dinner.
alcohol is banned from all the restaurants in China. Is it
No,
banned?
no, this is for government. For government events. If you have a government lunch or dinner,
Okay,
no,
okay,
no
okay.
alcohol. But also, but I would say, especially for ladies, it is normally ladies do not drink alcohol. So even if you have a
Yeah.
private dinner, it will be maybe the men drinking. And actually, I can tell you that when I was traveling in China in the 1980s, 1990s, they would drink a lot. They would be always trying to test the foreigner how much they can drink. But now everybody's busy. Everybody has to get up next morning.
Yeah.
So this is basically not a topic. If you tell the Chinese, okay, for 10 days there will be no alcohol, they say, okay, no problem. For many Europeans, this is, oh, really? Uh, that will be more of a hurdle. So therefore, yeah. So I think it is now basically what do you offer? How can you adapt your product, and how can you find a good distribution channel? So which might not always be tour operators, might also be going directly to universities or to other associations interested in one topic, like I don't know, if you
Now,
have a
you have
special
rightly
tour.
said it that there is a transition, and Chinese tourists trying to experience are trying to experience destinations in a more meaningful way. So,
Yes, yes,
if
yes,
I
totally.
yeah,
And
so
this
if
is
I
why.
yeah, if
Sorry.
I
So this is why actually we have developed in the last 5 years. So I have, next to
yeah,
working with China, so the
okay,
other half of my work now is meaningful tourism. So that is a
I was
uh,
coming to that point. Yes.
thank you, thank you. Yeah, so that's a strategy we have developed, which is, to put it very simple, is to say you need a holistic approach. You need to make all stakeholders happy and give benefits to all of them, not just to one. So it's neither the customer's king. It's not. Uh, Environment protection is the only point you have to. It's very important, but you also have, for instance, you have to also look at the how much benefits employees working in the industry are getting out of what they're doing, because we have a lack of people working in the industry in many parts of the world. So the idea is that meaningful tourism means, yes, it's meaningful for the travelers, but also for the global development of tourism, and that for of course, it's also for the Chinese market important that you have something the visitors get out of it, but the industry is getting out. And of course, do this in the way where you are uh, having as little impact on the environment as possible in what you are doing. And that is something which also in China has become much more important now, the question of sustainability, of environmental friendly travel, which some years ago nobody in China really cared much about. Now this is a big topic. So therefore, yeah, so traveling, and we have developed a tool set um, how to create meaningful tourism, and we have the PATA, which is the Pacific Asia Travel Association. They have this year agreed that their official vision for the future of tourism in the Asia Pacific is a meaningful tourism economy. So that is what is now the official idea how what we should strive for. And so that is something for the Chinese market, but of course not only for the Chinese market, but as China is the biggest tourism market in the world and
Yes.
a very important source market, especially when we talk about Asian destinations. So that is, of course, something which also should be applied there. And I'm happy to say that we have more and more support by destinations, also by some big tour operators in implementing this. And so that is hopefully something where we will have this
Absolutely.
on the level of discussion, which is global.
Yes, absolutely. The future of tourism isn't just about destination on a map anymore. It's about the meaningful stories and meaningful offerings that travelers can experience. And that's why these forums and these platforms that you're developing are so instrumental. It was really a pleasure talking to you, Dr. Wolfgang, and we would love to have you in Pakistan for our upcoming fifth annual edition in 2026 in April. Would see you there in
Well,
person.
yes, yeah, I hope so too. I mean, I'm not far away.
Yeah.
Kathmandu is not so far away from Pakistan. So therefore, if there's an opportunity, yes, of course. I've been following the development of Pakistan tourism, of course, over the years, and I see that you do a lot of things right, and you still have the opportunity to
Yes.
avoid a lot of mistakes other destinations have been doing, and you still have the opportunity to get things right, and of course for the Chinese market even more so. So, if it is possible, of course, I'm happy to come to Pakistan next year, and I wish you and all your colleagues in Pakistan all success. And let's hope we can keep in touch and we can do something together for the Chinese market.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.